They just making her more popular. This is funny as hell. This would not be the last time she endured harassment from Ronald's group, but each and every time they thought they bested her, she would handle herself with exemplary skill. Their efforts only serving to make her more popular. The state of affairs continued for several more days before a seemingly out of patience Ronald summoned Ren behind the school building after lessons were over for the day. This is a bad idea by him. He stood oppressively before her, his lackeys behind him, with the composure he attempted to feign before now replaced by plain vile anger. Shit. Not a smart idea, bro. Not a smart idea for this guy. Let me give it to you straight, Ren Bright. You are an eyesore. Even that gentlemanly air he impersonated before was gone. Really? Well, that's not a very polite thing to say to a classmate. Don't try to act cute and innocent. I put too much damn time and mirror into building my position up at this academy. But who's always the center of attention instead? It's you. It's always you. It's like you're deliberately trying to sabotage my chances of success. And that's the last thing I can afford right now. The more livid Ronald became, the more unruffled Ren was in turn. You're only sabotaging yourself by setting me up to succeed over and over again. You are aware of that, aren't you? Had she not been forced to defend herself against him over and over again, she would not have received nearly as much attention. This being pointed out caused Ronald to return an audible tut of frustration. Who cares about how it happens? The point is, this has gone on long enough, so I'm going to have to ask you to step off the stage for a while. What do you mean? Ronald seemed to present some of his initial cool when they first talked as he answered. Oh, I mean something very simple. You just won't come to school until the election is over. And if I refuse? To this, he raised a hand, and in response, his lackey stepped forward to surround her. The boys were unusually well built for their age, showing off their hulking forms in hopes of intimidating her. Refusing is not an option, I'm afraid. If you aren't going to oblige me willingly, you would just have to make it so you can't come to school for a while. His lackeys cracked their knuckles dramatically to clarify their leader's intent. Yeah, it's a bunch of big-ass overgrown dudes trying to gang up and beat up a girl because she's more popular than them. These dudes are like straight hoes, bro. Like, well, that's no good. I think we both know that would constitute a grave violation of the school rules. Something about her inflection caused him to mistake her commentary as to show a hint of fear, further fueling their desire to dominate the situation. Well, this is not good. No one's watching a place like this, and even if someone did happen to see, my father's a politician. He can make it go away. If they don't willingly choose to ignore what they saw in deference to my position, that is, everyone at this academy seems to already know their place, you see? Everyone except you. His smile then so unpleasant that a sigh escaped Ren. Oh, I think you're the one who doesn't know your place. I don't want to be rough with him after what Tita said, but he needs to be taught a good hard lesson. I agree. Ronald continued on, oblivious to what was running through his apparent victim's mind. Now do as I say. His lackeys drew closer, ready to seize her. I'll keep it mild, but I still want this to hurt for them. Just enough for them to set them on the right track. I don't think Estella Joshua would object to that. But just as she was about to act, stop this at once. A girl's shout can be heard from the direction of the school building. She was, of course, not shouting at Ren. And who are you? Ronald was visibly irritated. Though the girl appeared to be visibly nervous, she continued to stand her ground. I didn't mean to listen in, but I couldn't help overhear what was happening here. You can't go through with this. What you're doing is wrong. The girl stepped forward, till she was directly in front of Rin to protect her from her schoolyard bullies. As she did so, the light revealed sleek, dazzling blonde hair that shimmered much like the sunshine above. Is this Agnes? I think her name's Agnes. Rin recognized her to be a first-year student who lived in a dormitory next to her own. They weren't close to one another. At most, they had only exchanged polite greetings with one another as they passed each other in the hall. She always seemed like a quiet, polite young woman with a good upbringing, however, not the type whose eyes would glow with resolve as she put her well-being on the line for someone else's. Ren was surprised by this, as was Ronald. He was less. As was Ronald, though, he was less impressed. He never fathomed that another student would dare resist him. One thing he did sense was that her resistance was little more than a brave front. With excitement at the thought of stripping that front bare, he grew a sadistic smile and addressed her. Is it now? Well, how fortunate for me that I have you to show me the error of my ways. Ren can wait. You're a first year, I assume. I'm going to need to give you a lesson just how right and wrong works in society. Oh my God, this dude is tripping. Upon his signal, his lackey shifted around to surround their new target over Ren. She began to tremble as danger closed in on her, but still she did not move. Don't you dare. This time, it was Ren who spoke up. I'll give you what you want, so don't you dare touch her. But, you sure about that? She wasn't planning on that response, but Ronald was more than happy to have his win in any form. I'll stay away from the school for a while. That's what you want, right? But then the experience of studying abroad has been rather tiring for me, so maybe I do need some rest. Ren's voice was gentle in an attempt to, oh my God, why do this, man? I don't understand, man. Oh God. Oh man, this is just, I wish she do. I wanted her to cream these dudes. They all deserve it, man. Like she's just, doing it for the girls' concerns and everything like that. I don't know, man. Meanwhile, Ronald, made no attempt to hide the joy he felt at the victory, laughing heartily with all the glee of a spoiled child. Good, now everyone knows their place here. I see no reason to harm either of you. Now that I've got what I want, consider yourselves lucky now that I've decided to let you go. Ronald turned away and made to leave, his lackeys following suit. Good day to you, then. When we next meet, this school will be all mine. And then he was gone. With only the girls left behind the school building, the younger of the two looked up at her senior, concern welling in her expression. I really am all right. You're very kind to worry. Ren's smile was one of genuine kindness. That was unnecessary, man. From then on, Ren did indeed stop coming to school, citing illness as a official reason behind her absence. The students then gathered in the Academy's auditorium several days later for the long-awaited student council election. Aramis Academy as a whole placed great importance on the autonomy of its students, and as such, the student council exercised an unusual amount of power. It also weighed upon them a massive amount of responsibility, such as being the sole planner for the Academy's festival, a symbol and celebration of spring in the capital. This, however, also led to the position of being a major status symbol even long after graduation. Dang, these things are long. All of this was why a large number of students put their names forward to become the student council president every year. Yet this year, a great majority of most promising candidates dropped out under mysterious circumstances, leaving only Ronald and others associated with him on the ballot. I couldn't exactly boast about winning by default. Ronald and his supporters sat in the rest area, chuckling amongst themselves at the whole affair. Perhaps this name wasn't the only one on the ballot, but none of the others had done any certifiable campaigning, meaning his election was positively assured. Eventually, the time came to give his speech. It was a compelling one. He played the part of a respectable young gentleman as he delivered it, speaking with the same silver tongue he inherited well from his father. There were some moments where he failed to hide his arrogance, but as no one else had prepared a speech to give, this was not the blow to his campaign it otherwise would have been. Now, if you could turn your eyes to the screen he spoke of was at the back of the auditorium. This was a rather notable feature to have in the school building, to have anywhere, and was installed several years prior for use in lectures to display recreational films. Other nations had yet to indulge in such luxuries, showing just how far ahead Calvert was with this technology. Up until then, students had used it to display photographs during their speeches, but Ronald intended to take it another step further. He wanted to share a promotional video, and not only a simple makeshift, self-produced one that might ordinarily be presented by an amateur, but rather a professional work he had paid a considerable Mount Mirror for. Its quality was genuinely impressive. His victory was written in stone, but this, he knew, would cement it that much more. Convinced this would serve as a perfect beginning to his ascension to the top of the social hierarchy, he started the video. The musical number it played was rousing, fitting. What followed then was Ronald appearing on screen. So how much mirror do you want to make for supporting me? I can make it worth your while. What? The video playing before them was not the one intended. Rather than an inspiration show of what he could bring to the student body, it was a recording of him buying off one of his opponents just days before. As hushed whispers of confusion spread through the auditorium, the next clip played. If you know what's good for you, you'll withdraw your candidacy right now, or the only thing you'll be president of is a hospital bed. Next was an equally unexpected scene of Ronald intimidating another candidate into withdrawing from the race. As it continued, Ronald realized what was going on. Someone out there had replaced his carefully prepared video with another. I wonder who. The initially hesitant whispers exploded into loud enough murmurs that he had to raise his voice over them in his attempt to quell the situation. This is all a forgery. Someone is attempting to frame me. But just at that moment, as if waiting for his cries of denial, a girl's voice resounded from the auditorium's entrance. I'm afraid it's all entirely genuine. Her voice rang out with a wonderful clarity, charming all who heard it. She ran her hand through her violet hair and flipped it back as she talked and walked slowly toward the stage. Yeah, she put his ass on blast, bro. Bribing, potential threats, blackmailing, threatening, even executing violence amongst others, and many other cases of bullying aside. You are guilty on every single count, Ronald Griffin. Boy, this is funny. Before anyone could fully understand what was happening, this student was on stage and staring Ronald down. All eyes were fixed upon this elegant figure. Indeed, without any effort at all, she had the air of a protagonist of some epic tale making her long-awaited appearance. Damn it, Brian Bright. Must you insist on getting in my way at every turn? He growled through a sheet of sheer anger. In contrast, the recently absent Wren responded with brilliant composure. You are the one that's getting in the way of the fair running of this important election. Your countless crimes have made a mockery of the whole process. Wren then turned from Ronald to the rest of the student body as she continued to list his crimes alongside the still running video. Some elicited frowns, others sympathy, others complete silence. But by the time she was finished, all were united in a single overpowering emotion: anger. It brings me no joy to say this about a fellow student, but I'm afraid it must be said. Ronald Griffith, you do not deserve to attend this prestigious academy, much less be the president of its student council. Similar censure from other students follow in rapid succession. Where are the damn teachers? Yeah, she's right. Stop ruining our academy. You've gone too far. Wren's accusation wasn't the only for their anger, The students of Aramis had long loathed Ronald's oppressive behavior. They only had spoken out before because they were afraid of his father's power. Now that they realized he could be stopped, their anger had reached an explosive boiling point. Ronald suddenly found himself at the center of a torrent of abuse. He looked at his lackeys for support, but even they refused to meet his gaze. His boys walked off. It didn't dawn on him just how fragile all he thought he built was. Rage gave way to an instant deep despair, and casting a glare of pure hatred towards Ren, Ronald hurriedly sprinted out of the auditorium. Only when he was completely out of sight did the air erupt in cheers of joy. In the end, addressing the aftermath of the election took long enough that by the time she left for the gates, it was already evening. Yet even how late it was, instead of walking her usual route home, she stepped off the path to enter an entirely unoccupied park. How does this work? No one is going to interrupt us here, so how about you come out? In response to her words, Ronald emerged before her, first time since he ran away earlier, and with 10 or so companions until he finna try to whoop her ass. Now, these men weren't his usual lackeys, but instead vicious figures with dark expressions and gaudy clothing. They were clearly not students of the academy. More than likely, they belonged to some local gang. You don't keep very good company outside of school now, do you? With how they're dressed up. I assume you must be off to a party or something. I'm going to wipe that smug smirk right off that face for good, Renbright. My dazzling future in politics was guaranteed, and now you're going to ruin everything. What am I supposed to say to my father now? That's your problem, not mine. Or are you so small a man that you can't own up to the consequences of your mistakes? Not a second passed between the outburst and the manner in which she snapped back, causing his temper to grow twice as vile. That's it. I don't care what it takes. You were going to pay for thinking you could cross me and get away with it. Have at her. There won't be any consequences for going too far. Damn, my father will see to that. The men sprung in motion upon Ronald's signal, but what followed made them doubt their eyes. Yeah, there she is, Angel Slaughter. Angel Slaughter, baby. Ronald could not understand what just unfolded before him. His eyes relayed the information well enough, but his mind rejected it completely. The second after he ordered his new lackeys to attack, Ren had produced a monstrously sized black and gold size from thin air. This in itself was beyond comprehension, but it wasn't the last thing to be so. Oh my god, the scene was like a cat toying with a powerless, concerned mouse, except in this shocking case, Ren was the cat and his men were the mice. I'm sorry. They surrounded her at first, and yet all it took was a single swing from her conjured weapon to cause most of them to collapse to the ground. In less than 10 seconds, their confidence had crumbled with their bodies. The mice made to scurry as fast as they could, but the cat gleefully gave chase. There were even moments where she let a few think they had gotten away, only for her to immediately close the gap between them. It was only after she was bored that she would knock them unconscious like the rest. Then she would seek delight in her next hunt. Yeah, they bringing it out of her. Like heavy sacks of potatoes, the men fell one by one, until Ren and only Ronald were left. This can't be happening. The young man was still struggling to come to terms with what he just witnessed. Ren stretched her limbs like a bored child, still gearing up to play. Amateurs, every last one of them. I thought I could at least have a little fun. Oh, but don't you worry. I didn't actually slaughter them. She turned her gaze from the spectacle of her own creation to Ronald. Damn. There she is, man. Would you be open to giving me a little more entertainment, perhaps, Ronald? Ronald twitched in fear at the mention of his name. In this moment, she was nothing more than a beast in human skin. Stay away from me. My father's in Parliament, you know. Try anything on me and you'll regret it. Her response was an expression of pure pity before tossing what appeared to be a magazine at his feet. It's one of today's tabloids. You might find its contents relevant. What? At first, he was baffled by this shift, but the second he peeked at the cover, his face went pale. Representative Griffith, suspected of bribery and connection. Oh, she found some dirt on him. Connections to organized crime, read the headline in giant punchy lettering. There's a whole special feature on Your Dearest Daddy, complete with evidence. It mentions that the CID is going to be conducting an investigation as well. So this may be the last day you can say he's in Parliament. My condolences. Damn. No. No. So visceral was his shock at the news that a simple word was all he could muster. Even then, Ren wasn't finished. Dang. Killing, man. Golly. So now that he's been removed from the equation, I'll ask again. Would you be open to giving me a little more entertainment? She edged closer and closer, scythe in hand and a sadistic smile lacing her lips. Ronald tried to retreat in fear before tripping over a rock, falling hopelessly on his backside. All he could do was watch her as though she was a Grim Reaper, tears and snot streaming down his face. Be a doll and play with me. Then you'll understand why they used to call me the Angel of Slaughter. She raised her scythe above her head and ready to swing it downward before realizing what she said. Oops. A grown woman wouldn't play with dolls. A grown woman wouldn't play with dolls though, would she? And here I thought I could better control my childish glee. She covered her mouth and her free hand, blushing with feminine modesty at her slip-up. None of this was the behavior befitting the proper lady she wanted to reflect. After composing herself, she turned her attention back to her prey, only to see he was already unconscious. Damn. Finished? As she left the park, a calm young man called out to her. I certainly am. Ren met eyes with a brown-skinned young man leaning covertly against one of the trees. It was safe to assume he had witnessed the entire affair. Who is this guy? He glanced inside the park for a brief moment before speaking with slight but genuine admiration. You really are something. In what way? In every way. Even if she was more struck by the hacking abilities of a famous kitty. Even if I was more struck by the hacking abilities of the famous kitty than the combat prowess of the infamous Angel of Slaughter, still hard to believe you managed to find dirt on his big red dag that easily. Ren's response was a matter of fact, showing no sign his praise had gone to her head. Most people just aren't as cautious about cybersecurity as they ought to be. Understandable with how new most are at it. Of course, it isn't nearly as easy as this was when you're dealing with the leading corporations and politicians at the top of the food chain. You made it sound like you tried before. Maybe I have. Ren's smile was both cryptic and darling. I've been more impressed with you. You were quick to write a piece that scathing while also finding me exactly the proof I needed. I'm glad Grace introduced us. Just doing my job. The man's name was Dingo, and he was a professional reporter from the tabloid. He was extremely capable at his job, very well connected, and held a reputation for never shying away from danger. After being introduced to one another by Grace Lynn, he and Ren made a deal with one another just a few days prior. The terms were simple. Dingo would provide Ren with proof of Ronald's misdemeanors, and Ren would use her hacking abilities to provide evidence of his father's crime. Both were now reaping the rewards of other success. Though I'll admit that I did get some help from a friend, he was none too pleased about being asked to look into a scummy politician's equally scummy son. But he pulled through. Oh? You just have all kinds of connections, don't you? She did sense someone other than Dingo was acting on her behalf while she was off school, but she wasn't sure who that someone was. This curious sensation regarding their identity remained as she continued the conversation. You know, I'm surprised you didn't meet with any resistance in that running story. running that story. That just goes to show you how big a fan the government was of Griffin. They left him alone because they didn't actively oppose the current president's party. But from the CID's perspective, this chance to take him down was about as good as it's going to get. That does sound like something Miss Taito Master over there would do. I can't say I like the feeling of being used by her, but oh well. I think he's talking about what in the hell is her name? God, now I can't think of her name. That's gonna bug me. Kilika. That's what her name is. Kilika. Yeah. That Kilika's Taito Master. I think she started working. She left. She used to be an operator with the Bracer Guild, and she left to start doing like spy work. So I think she's with the CID. Dingo then made a curious observation. I have to wonder why you went to such lengths to get rid of a small fry like him. He really bother you that much? Ren glanced briefly at Ronald, still collapsed on the ground of the park, before shrugging her shoulders dismissively. Not in the least. I didn't intend for this to go as far as it did either. I only wanted to teach him teach him enough of a lesson so that he'd leave me alone. But it was then that the younger student who tried to save her came to mind. I think the students deserve a much better student council president than him. She then let out a titter that was most refined. As Ren expected, the allegations led Ronald's father to resign from Parliament while he resigned from Aramis Academy. The group of students who exerted power over the student body with its backing vanished overnight as a result, bidding peace to return to the grounds for the first time in a long time. One thing, however, came about from this that Ren had not expected, at least. Here are all the documents relating to next summer's budget. The Student Council's new president accepted the documents from the blonde-haired first year in charge of general affairs, perusing them right away. After Ronald dashed from the auditorium on the day of the election, most of those in his group who put down their name dropped out in a timely fashion. Voting still took place, even then. But once all was said and done, nearly 70% of the votes cast were disqualified. This was because they were all in favor of someone who had never put their name on the ballot, Ren Bright. Aramis Academy was known for how little its staff interfered with the many liberties it gave its students. They should shit. But this time, the staff was clearly concerned that dissatisfaction with Ronald was going to present dire problems in the future. The teachers then chose to directly negotiate with Ren, and in the face of such a fervent demand, she reluctantly accepted the position of student council president. That sounds about right. None of her duties posed a challenge to her, but by accepting it, she had completely and utterly failed her initial goal of avoiding detention. I wonder if this is how the Thor's Branch campus first student council president felt when he was elected. Even I couldn't believe it when Tita told me. All right. I think it was Olivier, wasn't it? All right. It is what it is. I suppose I'll just have to make use of this as best as I can. A beast. Yeah, I think the girl is Agnes. I think her name is Agnes, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It's gonna bother me, man. I'm like, so the game, the new game coming out, translated from English, Kuro no Kiseki, is Trails Through Daybreak. Okay, there was a trailer that came out today, actually about it. I couldn't remember the name at first, and I think the main character's name is Van. I can't think of Arkwright. Van Arkwright, and the girl is Agus Claudel. Yeah, that's what it is. I had to think of the names. I think that's the girl. I think the girl she's talking with. They won't show her face. Sunlight beamed into the student council room. The blonde-haired girl and two of her friends struggled with a new workload they were adjusting to. As Ren sat there, ears open to random talk and the occasional grumble, a thought crossed her mind. She had no end of real-world worries. The problems arising from rapid technological development, the society's next move, the ominous winds of change blustering over Calvert. But despite all those, she wanted to enjoy her simple time here while she could. Let's say we get this work done so we can celebrate with a tea party, huh? The arrival of spring was now a distant memory, even if summer had yet to come. There was nothing particularly spectacular about this time. It was just another ordinary, beautiful, bright afternoon. Oh, that was long and something else. An unconventional student. All right. Well, that is. Wait, there's another thread. Oh, no, another one happened. Oh, shoot. Well, I thought this was the end, but apparently we have another one that we're going to have to do. That is, yeah, we'll come back, I guess. Oh, man. Okay. Well, yeah, I got it all wrong. I said it was my last, but it's not the last. I wonder if they just come from. Yeah, I'll have to just wait. I don't know how many of them there are because they keep spawning from this thread, is what it seems like. So we'll head back to the garden. Sorry about that. I thought it was this was the last one. I thought it was only two, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna end here, and when we come back, yeah, we have another one to do. God, these things are long though, man. All right. Thank you for rocking with me, guys. I appreciate everybody. As always, you're new to the channel, tap that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all in the next one. Man, peace.